Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. Our City Council meeting is called to order. I kindly ask our recording secretary, Ms. Dawkins, to please take the roll call.
Bruno,
Bruno here.
Burkhart,
Here.
Ruby,
Here.
Caven,
Here.
Kilberg,
Here.
Maladra,
Here.
Marks,
Mark's here.
McGowan,
McGowan here.
Swanson,
Here. It's a ventriloquist.
all present.
We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, folks, and the first time in the history of this community, we're going to ask someone remotely, Alderman Bruno, who is trapped in an oxygen tank, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
So you get untangled. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You got to allow
Maybe the
2
last
second
time.
delay. Thank you, Alderman Bruno.
I was going to say, how'd that work with the latency?
It was good. It was like being at a professional baseball game or something. Not a Sox game, of course. I mean a professional baseball game. Item 3, folks, new business or public comment. Anyone joining us this evening have any comments, questions for the council this evening? If not, we'll move forward. And moving forward we are to item 4, public hearings, special items and presentations. There are none. Item 5, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments offered by any member of the council, either live or remote? Item 6, ladies and gentlemen, is the Omnibus Agenda. All items marked with an asterisk on this agenda can be considered and voted upon with one motion. Is there such a motion? Alderman Swanson makes the motion. Alderman Burkhart makes the second. Madam Recording Secretary, please take the roll.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Mark's aye.
McGowan,
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
The Omnibus Agenda passes with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes. We move to item 10, municipal bills for payment. We kindly ask our recording secretary to read the bills in their aggregate for our consideration.
municipal bills for payment total $1,581,433.45.
Mayor, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items can be found in tonight's packet on the city website.
Alderman Boy in the Bubble makes the motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Burkhart. Any questions or comments regarding the bills for our consideration? Madam Recording Secretary, please take the roll.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Aye.
McGowan,
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno.
Bruno, aye.
The bills for payment were approved with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes. Folks, we are at the adjournment hour.
No,
No, we're not.
we have one more.
We have one more, excuse me. Good Lord, I tried to speed things up. Sorry about that, guys. 12A, Annex St. Charles for parking. 12A, approve resolution number 2020-44, approving development economic incentive agreement by and between the City of Geneva and Industry House LLC. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Is that,
Was that Bruno made the motion?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Alderman
Bruno.
Bruno made the motion. Alderman Maladra made the second. We have, of course, our guests with us this evening. Welcome back. We have the Economic Development Director. We had a good discussion last week at the Committee of the Whole. Anything new and relevant anyone would like to bring up or ask from the dais or remotely? Alderman Burkhart.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to vote against this tonight. I think the restaurant sounds like a great concept. Obviously, they sound like really impassioned owners and very brave to be starting a business at this time. And if they choose to welcome, open a restaurant in Geneva, I would welcome them to the community. It's hard for me to support these kind of incentives for a new restaurant when we have so many restaurants that are struggling in the current pandemic. I just heard today a study, a national study, about 1/3 of restaurants probably won't make it through the pandemic. So again, nothing against this particular restaurant. It just feels to me just like the wrong time to vote in favor of these kind of incentives when we do have so many restaurants that could use similar help here in Geneva already. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Swanson.
I have the same sentiments as Alderman Burkhart. Again, I don't think it's the right time. I applaud the restaurateurs for coming in here and having the plan and for doing this at this time. However, given what's going on in the current economic environment, I don't think it's showing support to our existing restaurateurs. So I'm in agreement with Alderman Burkhart on the vote tonight. Thank you.
Anyone remotely wish to comment or ask a question? Seeing none. Anyone else present? Alderman Kilberg.
Kathleen, you might be able to answer this. We have a similar situation across the street with Flagstone and with the Little Owl. Has there been any discussion as it relates to incentives involving the redevelopment of that restaurant or bar?
Yes, we were contacted by Nick, the owner, before he purchased the property to talk about what he was doing and what needs he might have. He did identify one need that he was seeking assistance for. We did look at a number of different things. He did not qualify, the property did not qualify for this type of incentive because Little Owl and Flagstone were operating at the time of his purchase, and he did not meet the state regulations for this type of incentive. We talked to him about the limited things that we could do. We told him what he would need to do to try to pursue the conversation further. He did not. He purchased the property and moved forward.
Was there any sales tax discussion at all?
That's what I'm talking about. The sales tax, he would not qualify for a sales tax rebate because under the state statute, you have to have certain findings met. One of them is the vacancy or significant underutilization for a period of time, and that property did not have that present because it was occupied and it was being used by Little Owl and Flags.
So in other words, are you saying that if it sat vacant for a year or two, then that we could do more with supporting the redevelopment of the business?
Yes, sir. That's the state statute, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone? Alderman Caven.
I have a similar question to what Alderman Kilberg asked, but this one is more in regards to specifically the Nobel House. Was that something similar? I mean, the building that they were going into, I don't know what they were able to work out with the city as far as any type of incentive. I realize that that wasn't being used as a restaurant. I also know that that building that they purchased was not vacant. Does this fall in the same line with what you just described for the Little Owl property, or is it something different? Or did they have something else that they were able to get going through this process through this time?
Yes and no. We similarly looked and did discuss with them their needs at the time when they were under construction already. They had identified issues that they had with the costs of upgrading utilities. After talking with them, we realized that one of the things that they did need help with was upfront money. And we did look at a sales tax rebate, even though that wouldn't provide upfront money. And similarly, they did not qualify because Fox Jewelers was occupying the structure in the immediate prior to their undertaking their project, so they did not qualify for that. We did, though, look at other options. We looked at trying to create a different mechanism to provide them money up front, and what was concluded was that there was some public need we could identify, and they were able to get assistance with installing the transformer and all of the assistance that we gave them to try to acquire the easements. that they needed for that project. So they did receive a different type of assistance. You know, that's really the thing. Each opportunity is unique, and because we are not home rule and it's not within a TIF district or a business district, we have to try to work within the state statutes, and we have to look at each case individually, and we've been trying to assist as much as possible. And unfortunately, there are not tools for us to be able to just assist existing businesses and create those kind of programs. So we do have a lot of limitations because of our status as a non-home rule municipality, because we're not within a special district, and because the state statutes that we are able to utilize, they have their own findings and their own type of qualifications that have to be met for each of those. So we do look at that. I mean, we get asked to look at a lot of different projects, and we try to approach them, and if we do identify a need and we do identify a tool, then we like to bring it forward to you after we fully vet it and make sure that the need is genuine and understand the economics of the project. So this is something that we try to vet regularly.
Now, and I definitely appreciate that, and I know that we're somewhat limited in what we can do for a lot of the reasons that you've identified, but, you know, this is one that's been difficult for me, just with knowing how many restaurants are, you know, how many vacancies we have in Geneva right now, and, you know, what I believe has been a very challenging time, and who knows what that's going to look like in 2 or 3 more months for the rest of these existing businesses that are here. And I guess, for me, the part that's been challenging, it's not that somebody came forward, and I would love to see that building redeveloped, but it's what I believe that the scope or the overall total of what that amount is the part that I'm struggling with a little bit. But I appreciate your answers to my questions, though. Thank you.
Alderman Maladra.
So I'm looking at this a little bit differently than I think everybody else is. I don't view this as an action on our part to threaten any other business in town. I suppose if we're really interested in protecting these other businesses, then we probably ought not to issue a liquor license to any new business that comes into town. What I am viewing this is, the context in which I am viewing this gets to the problem of vacancies that Alderman Caven just mentioned. We have known for years that the infrastructure of the business buildings in the central downtown is outdated. And I think that when a vacancy does develop and the infrastructure of that building doesn't meet the needs of a modern business, it's going to sit vacant longer than it might otherwise. So I view this as an investment on the part of the city in the downtown, trying to ensure that it can be positioned to do business in the 21st century. We've talked about different ways of doing this for years. We talked about forming a business district. That didn't go over. So we look at whatever other incentives we can to enable change. That change is not being done to threaten any other business. The fact that it's the time of coronavirus, I actually think that it's more, I appreciate more that there is a business from outside willing to take a risk on Geneva and gamble on Geneva in such an uncertain time. So I just look at it in a different context, and so I'll be supporting this.
Anyone else on the dais or remotely? Otherwise, I believe, oh yes, Alderman Bruno. Excuse me, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of piggyback on what Alderman Maladra was speaking about is back when we did have the business district discussion, I think I brought this up last time, you know, it was our goal to make these types of investments. The downtown business community fought that pretty vigorously, which leaves us with very few tools. as I look at this particular property, and we're investing in the property, we're not investing in the business. When I look at this property now, it really strikes me, this is an important gateway property, if you will, that I think if we can get foot traffic to that parcel, that'll help that entire block, that entire quarter on that east end there. So I was for it last time. I'm still for it, probably more for it now than last week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No other comments, folks. I'm going to ask a second time, unless anyone objects to recognizing Alderman Burghardt for a second time before anyone else has spoken for the first time. Hearing no objections, Alderman Burghardt.
And I want to stress, I'm not trying to keep restaurants out of downtown Geneva. I'm not saying let's stop issuing restaurant permits or construction permits. I'm just saying we're giving a really huge leg up to this property. And, you know, I was opposed to the Dunkin' Donuts incentives for a very similar reason. I have no problem with Dunkin' Donuts on the east side. I didn't think we needed to give them hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it happen. So, so that's it. Again, if this goes through, I welcome them to the community. It's nothing about trying to protect one restaurant or the other. It's going to be a tough year for all our restaurants and stores, no matter whether one or two more new ones open or not. It just, that's just how I'm approaching it tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Recording Secretary, please take the roll call.
Ruby,
Nay.
Caven,
Nay.
Kilberg,
Nay.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
McGowan,
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Nay.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burghardt,
Nay.
4 to 5.
4 5, which way?
Fails.
Sadly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sad to report that the motion has failed. That concludes the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Burghardt, all in favor, take the roll. Ms. Dawkins.
Sorry. Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra, Marks,
Marks, aye.
McGowan,
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burghardt,
Aye.
Ruby. Aye.
Motion is adjourned, folks. Microphones are off. We'll take a brief recess. Good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting. This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all the council persons are present or remote, and of course, we have a total of 9 members of the council. With that, we're going to jump right into business, folks. Item 2 is new business and public comment. Is there any public comment from anyone in the audience prior to jumping into the business at hand this evening? Any new business from members of the council? I have one matter of new business. I want to give everyone a courtesy notification that next Monday evening, August the 10th, and that would be at the Committee of the Whole meeting or the council meeting?
August 17th.
August 17th? That would be at the council meeting? I will be bringing back up on the agenda the matter regarding that which was just defeated, so that we can consider this yet again and perhaps provide some edification as to why I believe it's in the best interest of this community to advance that economic incentive program for the purported restaurant to be known as Bash. Any objection, any discussion? Yes.
I'm sorry. No objection, but can I get a explanation about how that's allowed once?
Well, in fact, I erred by not asking for those who voted in the majority to ask for a motion to recall or reconsider prior to the adjournment of the council meeting this evening. I believe we could have a more robust discussion on the facts as it relates to, I think, some misunderstanding with regard to our investment in either the business or, quote, us giving money away, which of course we're not doing either. And I think that we could probably take some time to reconsider some of the comments made by folks who I believe may have done a disservice to the overall economic health and well-being of the downtown. I am well aware of conversations had with multiple restaurateurs. All of but one said that they welcome the new restaurant into the community, irrespective of the economic incentive. One said that they were fully aware that they did not meet the requirements. The second was fully aware they did not meet the requirements. And the community, the restaurant community itself seemed to be okay with that. And while there was some concern regarding the size of the nut, it was understood that the city of Geneva is not investing a dime. In fact, it's a matter of if this restaurant does well, Geneva does well. They're investing far more than we'll ever even consider providing to the property. So that was my reason for wanting to do so.
And that's allowed under,
It is.
can I get explanation?
For purposes of today, he's just, I think the mayor's just introducing something that will be on a council agenda down the line.
On the
It
17th.
would be brand new then. So it was defeated today, and this is just an announcement for all intents and purposes. But it can be brought back, like anything else can be brought back.
So if I was on
But
the
it starts
other, if I was on the other end of this equation, how would I be able to bring it back on August 17th?
Well, you voted against it, so you couldn't. But if the mayor had called for a motion to reconsider, someone that voted in the affirmative could have, I'm sorry, someone that voted against it could have brought it forward.
Right, somebody on my,
So you could have in that instance, correct. But
I'm
no one
saying-
brought the motion.
I'm saying if I was on the other end, the side that didn't get what they hoped would happen, how would I bring it back on August 17th?
You could bring it back if you wanted
Yeah,
to.
oh yeah, anyone can.
Anyone could.
Yeah.
By-
Simply ask for it to be on the
Simply
agenda.
putting it on the agenda,
Yeah.
asking it to be reintroduced.
And I have to get how many votes to do that?
None. Just simply request and it's on the agenda.
I just feel like in the past, we had some, I don't want to say council wars, but some situations where we,
Those were politically driven, as you recall.
yeah, I know. I'm just saying
yeah.
there were some times where things didn't go someone's way.
Sure.
And I didn't feel like they could have gotten it back on the agenda 2 weeks later. And I can look up specifics, it's fine, but am I wrong on that, anybody? I didn't know that it was, we could just bring it back around. It feels like double jeopardy or something, but.
Well, it's a new topic, and it can be reintroduced as a new topic. So we literally start anew, as it were. We could provide not only the applicant, but of course others who might want to comment on their support of or their opposition to, for that matter.
If we pass the incentives, could we, 2 weeks later, reconsider? I mean, once we,
Those in the majority can always reconsider.
Sure.
Absolutely.
all right, I'll let it go. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Ruby?
I would like this conversation to go back to the seller, and I feel like if we're putting this back on the agenda in 2 weeks, that we're eliminating that possibility.
With respect to the price of the building? Mm-hmm. Well, I believe the Economic Development Director provided us a brief history with respect to the original purchase price of the building, and then negotiations took place in which that purchase price was then reduced. And while there was still a gap, if you will, hence the economic incentive package, as I understand it. Is that a fair assessment, Kathleen?
Yes.
Okay. And then you also said that this will be a new topic on the 17th. I don't understand how,
It's just being reintroduced, so we're literally
but it's the
starting.
exact same topic.
Correct. But it's not a motion to reconsider, it's not a motion to, it's just bringing it back.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Alderman Caven.
Is this coming back on the 17th, back to the committee of the whole topic, or is this a council meeting topic?
Council meeting topic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else remotely? Moving forward, item 3, approve committee of the whole minutes from July 20th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Bruno so moves.
Alderman Bruno makes the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Burghardt. Madam Recording Secretary, please take the roll. Okay.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
McGowan,
I'm sorry, I had some missing audio. Can you just give me clarification on what we're voting for right now?
the approval of the minutes from the last cow.
Oh, okay. Thank you. McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
The motion passes, folks, with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes. Item 4A is to consider draft ordinance amending Title 9 Municipal Utilities, Chapter 3 Water and Sewer, Section 1 Definitions, and Section 5 Maintenance, Repair, and Replacement of Service Lines of the Geneva City Code. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Was that Caven and Burkhart, or was that Kilberg and Burkhart? Kilberg was the motion, Burkhart with the second. So a K and a B. This matter is on the floor. Brief analysis and edification by Ms. Dawkins.
The overhead sewer grant program has been in place since 2009 to assist property owners in the installation of overhead sewer system to protect property from sanitary sewer backups. The proposed Geneva City Code amendment updates and enhances the current program to a sanitary backflow prevention program. The updated program will allow added flexibility for property owners to determine which device best suits their needs in the form of 4 assistance programs: installation of sanitary backflow prevention system, installation of sanitary sewer lateral lining and/or grouting, installation of footing tile separation, and/or lead and galvanized water service replacement. The memo in the packet fully outlined each of the proposed assistant grant programs. In addition, several questions were received by the City Council, and those questions, along with the responses, were posted to the city's website earlier today. This evening, we have Director Babica and Superintendent Van Gescam present to answer any additional questions you may have.
Any questions for the director or the superintendent? We'll start with our friends remotely. Any questions from aldermen, alderpeople Bruno, Marks, or McGowan? Alderman Bruno?
Thank you, Mayor. No questions for staff, but I just wanted to thank staff for the questions that were answered ahead of time that the public can view until, I guess, this video is up. But I'm pleased that we're enhancing all of this, and I think it's a good step forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else remotely? Anyone present in the chamber? Madam Recording Secretary, please take the roll.
Kilberg,
Kilberg, aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
McGowan,
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven.
Aye.
Item 4A passes with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes. Item 4B, as in boy, is to consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with M.E. Simpson Company in the amount not to exceed $92,093.37 for a 3-year water system leak detection program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Maladra makes the motion, Swanson makes the second. Ms. Dawkins?
Okay. So the water system leak detection program was budgeted over a 3-year period beginning with fiscal year '21. Along with the City of Batavia, staff published a joint statement of qualifications and a request for proposals and received 3 proposals. In compliance with the law, staff from both cities evaluated the 3 proposals on the basis of demonstrated competence and qualifications to perform the services. M.E. Simpson Company, Inc., from Valparaiso, Indiana, ranked the highest in the evaluations, and staff from both cities agree that M.E. Simpson Company, Inc. is a reputable professional services firm for leak detection based on their previous experience. The entire distribution system will be surveyed for leaks each of the 3 years. Each fiscal year has a cost of $30,697.79 for a total amount of $92,093.37. The second and third fiscal years of the contract would be dependent upon budgetary approval by the City Council. I know we have Superintendent Van Gescam and also Administrative Analyst Badalico. Is that right? All right. Are present to answer any additional questions the council may have. I've never had to say Franco's last name out loud.
I know, I like it. This matter is on the floor courtesy of Maladra and Swanson. Any questions or comments for our professional staff? Or Ms. Dawkins? Anyone remotely? Anyone in the chamber? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Marks, aye.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart?
Aye.
Ruby?
Aye.
Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Item 4B passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Item 4C, folks, is to consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with Deutschler Engineering Corporation in an amount not to exceed $22,400 for sanitary sewer smoke testing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Kilberg makes the motion. Burkhart makes the second. Ms. Dawkins?
Okay. So we had a severe rain event of 7 inches back in May, which contributed to the overflow of a portion of the city sanitary sewer system. This resulted in some residents in the Geneva East subdivision to have sanitary sewer backups. After televising the area, several areas, both public and private, have been identified as contributing groundwater infiltration into the sanitary sewer system. As a follow-up to the televising, staff is recommending smoke testing be performed. Smoke testing will show additional defects that allow groundwater infiltration inflow into both the private and public portions of the sanitary sewer. The results of the smoke testing will be included in the overall recommendations in the Deutschler report. Advance notice of the testing will be provided to all residents in the area and will be coordinated with the Geneva Fire Department. Bob Van Gescam, Superintendent, is still with us this evening to answer any additional questions.
Any questions remotely or from the dais for Superintendent Van Gescam? Seeing Alderman Kilberg?
It may have been contained in the supporting materials, but what's the time frame for this, Bob?
We would be ready to begin early September.
Okay, it'd be this fall.
Yes.
Anyone else? Questions for the superintendent?
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Alderman Bruno. Sorry, Gabe.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I guess this would be for Mr. Van Gescam. So we obviously know that these neighborhoods in Geneva East are a particular acute problem. Is there a sense that we will sweep the entire community with these types of tests?
Depending on how successful we are, and I think we will be successful here in the Geneva East area, there's probably another 3 areas in town that I would like to do this in. One being off of Division and Bennett. The other one would be in the Pepper Valley area, and then the Fargo area.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Marks?
Marks, aye.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart?
Aye.
Ruby? Aye. Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Item 4C passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Moving on to item 4D, consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a change order, number 1, with WBK Engineering LLC in the amount of $9,040, increasing the overall contract amount to a not-to-exceed amount of $287,967.34 for the 2020 citywide watershed study. A motion would be in order. Alderman Burkhart makes the motion.
Second.
Alderman Caven makes the second. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay, so previously, the city entered into a professional engineering agreement with WBK Engineering LLC to perform the 2020 citywide watershed study. As this work has progressed, an identified shortcoming within the proposal specifications was found regarding web page hosting, which would encourage residents for feedback for stormwater and drainage issues that had not been included in the original proposal. This web portal will be independent from the city's website, but a link directing residents to the portal will be provided. The cost to create and host the web portal for 12 months is $9,040. Staff recommends that the change order be accepted to enhance resident participation in the study. Director Babica is here this evening, and then I also believe Greg Chismar is here with WBK. So if there's any questions for the council.
Any questions or comments for Director Babica or Mr. Chismark? Alderman Burkhart, then Alderman Swanson.
Yeah, if Mr. Chismark could come up.
Good evening. Greg Chismark, to VBK Engineering.
Hi, Greg.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little background about why we got to this place? Why was a website not included in this project from the beginning? It seems like if you're going to get public input, you would have done it. A website seems pretty standard nowadays.
So the scope was developed, and what was included in the original scope was contemplated were 2 public open house meetings are included in the scope. I believe the idea of either utilizing the city website would be part of the outreach, the public outreach. But as through discussions with city staff, we anticipated the city would host the portal. The city staff requested that we provide, WBK provide that. We are civil engineers, we're not web builders. So we chose Social Pinpoint as the platform for a couple of reasons. One, we think the mapping component, the ability for residents to go to a map, drop a pin, identify the type of drainage issue they're dealing with, provide information so that we can get back to them and determine better what the cause of that is. Social Pinpoint is a platform that allows people like civil engineers, there's templates that we can fill out. So that's why we chose that format. And I know there were some questions about this web portal is not going to be as dynamic as probably some of you may be used to because the process is going to be longer term. We anticipate it to be 12 to 18 months for the entire study. So we chose bi-monthly updates to that as we decide when the public open house would occur, and as progress on the studies occur, we'll update them on a bi-monthly basis. Some of that was chosen in an effort, there wasn't a demand or need to do that on a more regular basis to keep costs down.
So have you used Social Pinpoint before?
We have not used Social Pinpoint. We have used other, I'll say template-based web building softwares, but this will be our first time utilizing Social Pinpoint.
So when I saw the cost is like $2,800 for Social Pinpoint for a year, my eyes kind of popped, but I did check it out last night, and it's much more than just a hosting site. It does have it looks like a lot of capability that cities around the world have used.
It does. And that's the part, it's not simply just the hosting. What it provides, it allows us, and this is a solution, again, that we brought that allows our urban planner, who's one of our tech-savvy people in terms of developing and working with the websites, can utilize the templates. And it was the mapping capability that we felt would maybe differentiate that platform from another one.
And then how will the data, so if you're only going to get it every other month, so I put my PIN in and say what, event or something, and you don't get it till 6 weeks later when the urban planner downloads it and shares it with the city, how is that going to inform your planning and moving forward?
Well, I think in reality we'll probably be looking at it more than just every 2 months, quite frankly, especially when it first gets posted and there's some interest in it, we'll be looking at it more frequently and providing it. But in the effort of updating the website, again, because we didn't see the progress being so rapid on this that we needed a monthly update or anything more than that, but we'll probably be looking at the data more frequently than bi-monthly. And just so you know, we have been working with city staff, so if there's a service request or service call, staff has been forwarding those on to us. They decide which ones we get and then that WBK responds to. So we'll be very curious to see how this works and what the response is from the public. So especially in the beginning, we'll likely be looking at it more than every 2 months.
And so you're just passing through the cost for Social Pinpoint, it looks like.
Yeah,
that's just a pass through.
No markup on it,
Yeah.
correct.
But I was, again, a little eye-popping. Your urban planner makes $140 an hour to update this website. Is he or she really the
He's really
person
good.
who
Yeah,
needs to-
he's well, and he is. So Adam Rack is the urban planner that is the person that has worked with setting up the websites before. He's the most qualified person, we believe. Work closely with Adam. I can tell you this, is that initially, when I asked him how long it would take to set up the website and get it going, it was more than what's represented in the proposal. But again, we wanted to try and, again, cut the hours back so that it would be maybe an easier decision, but understand where he is with the rate.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Swanson.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned that this will give us the capability for residents to show you on a map with a pin drop where they're having issues. And
Yes.
I'm trying to understand the benefit, the $9,000 benefit to the city or to this study. And as an example, let's just say this room is my backyard, and I'm having flooding in my backyard. How will it benefit you to have this $9,000 upgrade as opposed to me just saying my address and saying my backyard floods? What's the difference and what's the benefit that this is going to provide?
Well, I think the idea is to have a web-based opportunity for people to provide input. It's just one other way. We're going to host we'll have some open houses. So you're right, if someone were to show up at an open house, and it's just one other way, and I believe it was in the city's interest to utilize an internet-based feedback platform, we'll call it, to do that.
Okay. And I guess the question for city staff, we've done a lot of programs like this where we've asked for input. Have we always set up a new website to do so, or is this a new methodology for us?
We've gathered input in a variety of ways, either through a SurveyMonkey survey and had an intern or somebody gather the data. This would be really the first time, other than we did it for the charrette. That was an outside hosting for the Millrace charrette. When we got surveys and all of that, that was done through that process, through the consultant there. But we don't, we have GIS tech capabilities, but we don't have the capabilities in-house to gather the data and get the information in the way that the engineering firm could use it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the chamber or remotely? Any questions or comments from Mr. Chismark or the director, Mr. Babica? Ms. Dawkins, please take the roll.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson?
Nay.
Bruno?
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart?
Nay.
Ruby?
Nay.
Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Marks, aye.
The motion passes with 6 affirmative votes and 3 nay votes. Moving on to item 4E, as in Edward, consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with DPS Equipment Services Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $191,950 for wastewater treatment plant primary clarifier flight replacement. No need to describe what that is. I know you all understand that. Ms. Dawkins? Wait, we need a motion and a second, excuse me. Motion by Ruby. Seconded by Caven. Ms. Dawkins, thank you.
So the capital budget provides for the replacement of 2 20-plus-year-old rotating plate chain assemblies within the 4 primary clarifiers. This equipment conveys settled sludge from one end to the other in the treatment process. All 4 clarifier flight chain assemblies are showing signs of wear and are failing, which cause significant man-hours to repair. Staff is recommending to replace the assemblies in 2 clarifiers in fiscal year '21 and the remaining 2 in fiscal year '22. The project was advertised and 3 bids were received, with DPS Equipment Services, Inc. submitting the lowest bid in the amount of $194,500. The bid includes a $20,000 credit for Geneva staff to remove and dispose of the grit and debris in the tanks. DPS Equipment Services has not worked in the city of Geneva before, however, positive references were verified. Staff is recommending a 10% contingency be included in the overall not-to-exceed amount to account for any unforeseen field changes that may occur. The approved budgeted amount for this project was $100,000. The additional money needed for the project will be funded through a reduction in other capital projects that are not as crucial as the primary clarifier flights. Superintendent Van Gescam is present if you have any additional questions.
Questions or comments for Superintendent Van Gescam? Remotely, anyone? in the chamber? Alderman Kilberg?
Bob, could you explain the disparity between the approved budget amount and the actual bid?
Sure.
It's quite a bit. It's $100,000. I mean,
It is, and it's a combination of, being my fault and the staff down at the wastewater plant. As you can imagine, the guys were a bit busy here the last couple of years, and this item during the budget process came up, not necessarily at the last minute, but as one item that they, gave to me fairly close to the time when I had to submit the budget, and we just failed to give enough time and effort into getting a cost amount for the labor portion of it.
Anyone else from the dais? Oh, Alderman Burkhart, yes.
I just want to thank Bob for just laying it out there. That was great. We all make mistakes.
That's right.
And, I appreciate it.
We try hard.
You do great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone remotely? Otherwise, we'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Dawkins, whenever you're ready.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
McGowan.
McGowan, aye.
Item 4E passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Item 4F, consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a change order number 1 with Bollinger Locke and Associates in the amount of $438,348, increasing the overall contract amount to the not-to-exceed amount of $1,348,300.52 for the East State Street Phase 2 engineering. Is there a motion?
So,
Swanson makes the motion and Kilberg makes the second. Ms. Dawkins?
Okay, in 2013, the city entered into a professional engineering agreement with Bollinger Locke and Associates, BLA, to provide design services for the Phase 2 portion of the East State Street construction project. In March of this year, staff and BLA met with IDOT District 1 personnel to discuss the process for land acquisition. IDOT informed the city and BLA staff that not only would the city be required to be the lead agency to acquire the various properties, but would also have to complete the process utilizing the IDOT standards and practices. Prior to this meeting, it had been relayed that IDOT would be providing this service. As this was not known when the Phase 2 contract was entered into, for review this evening is change order number 1 for BLA to conduct the land acquisition services related to land acquisition for the East State Street project in the amount of $438,348. This will allow for the additional right-of-way to be secured, which will then allow for the completion of Phase 2 design, opening the path to a bid letting and construction. Fingers crossed. We have Director Babica with us this evening, as well as Dan Bruckelmeyer of BLA, both present, if you have any additional questions.
Questions or comments for the director, Mr. Babica, or our guest, Mr. Bruckelmeyer, from the dais? Alderman Kilberg?
see, Rich, it's a little bit like birthing an elephant, this project, isn't it?
It's been a long endeavor, about 15 years and going.
Your predecessor, Dan Dingus, I think, showed me these diagrams probably 6 or 7 years ago. And this is an important step because there are pieces, there are small tracts along East State Street that the city needs to acquire with the landowners so that we can make the enhancements, the improvements that are long overdue to East State Street. And just for the benefit of the audience, this will allow for some turn lanes and some things that will really improve traffic flow and handling some of the congestion that we encounter on East State Street trying to get through town in the evening. And I'm glad that we're moving forward with this and that hopefully they'll be successful and that $483,000 will be sufficient in acquiring what the city actually needs. Again, some of these are very small tracts, aren't they?
That is correct. It consists of land acquisition as well as construction easements and a temporary construction easements.
In some cases, it's just a few feet, isn't it?
correct. The takings range from as little as 6 inches across the frontage to several feet.
Well, anyhow, thanks for your leadership on this, Rich, and thanks for bringing it to this point.
Well, as much as I'd like to take credit, Administrator Dawkins was with us at IDOT getting that wonderful news on March. The Assistant Public Works Director, Brian Schreiber, Dan Bruckelmeyer from Bollinger and Locke. I mean, it has been, and Dan Dinges, and even going back to Tom Talsma, which is really where this started, and Pam Broviak. It has been a long and varied, Mary McKittrick. It is a huge amount of staff time has been going into this project to get to moving dirt, which fingers and toes crossed.
One other question, Rich. I know that we've had some water main issues as it relates to East State Street, and anybody that's lived here for a while knows that when you have a water main break over there in the middle of the winter, it's not very pleasant. We have plans to do some improvements to some of the infrastructure as it relates to East State Street as we wade into this project.
That's correct. The water main is scheduled for replacement. There's improvements to the sanitary collection system. There's improvements to the storm sewer collection system, as well as other utilities that are owned by NICOR, for example, or AT&T, Sprint. All the utilities will be relocating and upgrading their utilities as they need.
And for the benefit of the public, again, the time frame on this, if everything goes well with funding and everything, we're looking at getting started really possibly next year then, right?
We're scheduled for potentially a letting in late fall of '21.
Okay.
But that assumes 15 to 18 months for right-of-way, and that can, until the right-of-way is secured, we cannot complete the Phase 2 design. Until we complete the Phase 2 design, IDOT can't complete their final review, which means it can't go out to bid. So this is an important milestone in the project, is initiating this process and getting this moving. And
So then as we look forward here, then really as far as tearing up East State Street and really a lot of construction in that corridor, we're looking probably at 2023, 2024 then under ideal circumstances.
You know,
I know I don't want you to make a prediction.
I've been with the city for 6 years.
Yeah.
And we've said numerous times, you know, it's like being a Cubs fan. Next year, wait till next year. We're going to get them next year.
But it did happen.
Yeah, it did. And so when I see the project go out to bid and when I see the contracts getting issued, I'll come back in front of the city council and say, this is the year. But until then, I just want to get this hurdle passed. Let's get the land acquisition process moving, and let's get it done.
Okay, thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Alderman Burkhart.
Thanks for being here, Rich. And this was probably in the packet, and I missed it in all these things behind it before us. The history of this, so IDOT was going to take care of this piece and then has decided otherwise, or changed their mind, or misunderstanding, or?
I guess the politest way I can state this is that the way we structured the funding through the grants, the city secured the grants in our name, and because the grants were in the city's name, IDOT did not have the ability to utilize our grants to acquire the land.
But we will say it took them a year to tell us that.
Yeah, trying to.
But I think everybody needs to know that the delays have not been for want of trying.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Bruno.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Babica, this is just a personal curiosity thing. I would imagine, even though there's just several feet of taking, I imagine some of those property holders will not be entirely happy. What is the process? This is a state right-of-way. They really don't have any method to stop this project. Is that right? What's the public-facing side of that land acquisition look like?
Well, in the spirit of the baseball analogy, I'm going to go to the pen and call in my relief, Dan Bruckelmeyer from Bollinger and Locke.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm the soft-tossing lefty. Ugh, sorry, couldn't spit that out. So basically, the way it kind of works is you go through, there's 3 phases in any state construction project. There's phase 1, which is what identifying basically what the corridor's deficiencies are, pedestrian gaps, failing infrastructure, inefficient roadway network, and that's the time when the public really has a chance to vocalize their opinions. Public meetings were held, and essentially everybody was in favor of the project moving forward. At that time, things move into phase 2, which is normally about a 2-year period. Well, we're going on year 7, and as City Administrator Dawkins had indicated, it's not for lack of trying. So typically, what you'll see in this amendment is that basically it's an amendment to our firm, but we're just overseeing the contract. The actual firm that's going to be doing the negotiating is a firm, Santa Cruz Associates. And so basically there's, in each parcel of land, they structure their fees according to each affected parcel. So there's an appraisal that's done, and then somebody reviews that appraisal to make it valid, and then it gets negotiated. Because this is along state right-of-way, and because it's kind of gone through the public process, what'll happen is, if there is any situation, and again, we were talking about very small pieces of land. There's no buildings being demolished or any of that. It's just literally just needing a couple extra feet. Then what the state will do is they will file what they call eminent domain. And that essentially allows the project to move forward while the true value of the property gets determined in the court system, and it could be several years later. So that is really the only thing the state has done to keep this project moving forward. Is they said, look, if there's one easement holding this project up, we as the state will allow the use of eminent domain just to make sure this moves forward. And again, I don't know if you saw it in your notes, but right now, last Friday, we submitted paperwork indicating that this $438,000, the majority of that is reimbursable as part of this grant funding. It's an 80-20 split. So the city was awarded a $3 million grant for purposes of obtaining this land back in 2018, and so that's basically an 80-20 split. So the federal share, the grant share, would cover up to $2.4 million, and the city share would be $600,000. So all we're really doing is we're breaking out a portion of that $3 million to cover this right away. So that's really, it's just kind of moving pots of money around, and we're just waiting on approval from the state in order to execute and finally move forward with this.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Comments or questions for either Mr. B or Mr. B? Hearing none? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Bruno?
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart?
Aye.
Ruby? Aye. Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Mark's aye.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Item 4F passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Item 4G, folks, is to consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with Superior Road Striping Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $45,000 for the 2020 pavement marking maintenance project. Is there a motion? Alderman Burkhart makes the motion. Seconded by Alderman Ruby. Ms. Dawkins?
So this project entails the maintenance of pavement markings to improve the safety of pedestrians and the motoring public. A bid letting was conducted and advertised per city code, and one bid was submitted by Superior Road Striping, Inc. from Melrose Park. The bid amount was within the budget. This company has worked for the city on several different projects over the years as a subcontractor and has performed satisfactorily. We have Assistant Director, City Engineer Brian Schreiber present this evening to answer any additional questions.
Questions or comments for Mr. Schreiber, remotely or in the chamber? Alderman Kilberg?
Well, listen, I'll wait for you. Hi, Brian. Brian, will this include the the striping that's required on South. We've paid for that already. Is this going to be, are they going to provide that service for the city?
No, the original contractor will be doing that bridge work on South Street.
Right, that was done last fall, and we've paid for it, and
Yeah,
hopefully going to get that done this year?
yeah, we were told today that that'll be happening real quick.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for our Assistant Director of Public Works? Seeing none, hearing none? Roll call, please.
Burkhart?
Aye.
Ruby? Aye. Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Marks, aye.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Bruno, aye.
Item 4G passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. We are on to item 4H. Consider draft supplemental IDOT resolution from BLR 14220 for fiscal year 2017, what?
Yes.
2017-2018 road maintenance. Apparently we forgot some roads back in 2017, so. Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Alderman Burkhart, thank you. Alderman Ruby, thank you. Ms. Dawkins?
So IDOT, with the assistance of city staff, conducted an audit of previous IDOT projects from 2005 through 2019. In completing the audit of municipal expenditures covering the period May 1, 2017 to April 30th, 2018, expenses exceeded the funds authorized via the authorizing resolution adopted by the city council. To correct this housekeeping matter, for your consideration are the requisite supplemental IDOT forms that increase the authorization to utilize MFT funds for routine annual street maintenance activities for this operating period to authorize those additional expenditures. Director Babica is here to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments for Director Babica remotely? In the chamber?
I would note, though, from 2005 to 2019, that's a pretty good audit.
That is a pretty good audit. Seeing no questions, hearing no questions, sensing no questions, roll call vote, please.
Ruby? Aye. Caven?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Marks, aye.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart?
Aye.
Item 4H passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Item 4I, consider draft resolution authorizing a pole attachment agreement with Comcast of Illinois. Is there a motion? Motion by Swanson, seconded by Ruby. Ms. Dawkins?
Okay. Staff has negotiated a pole attachment agreement with Comcast of Illinois utilizing a format recently negotiated agreements with MetroNet and Wide Open West. Comcast is currently operating under an ordinance section of the city code without a separate agreement. The city has moved away from a one-size-fits-all ordinance for pole attachments and supports individual pole attachment agreements as a better method of licensing companies to attach to city-owned utility poles. The pole attachment rate is $25.94 per pole and is per year and is calculated based on valuation of the utility's gross plant and service for poles and space needs on the poles. The rate can change annually based on the financial calculation. We have Superintendent Wright with us this evening to answer any additional questions.
Questions or comments for Superintendent Hal Wright? Remotely, any questions for our, is it 32 years, Mr. Wright? 33-year veteran of the city of Geneva? Any questions in the chamber? Oh, Alderman Ruby.
Thank you. So we have 3 different companies that we rent pole space to, is that correct?
Actually, more than that.
Okay. Are there
I think Hal might be able to.
There are 4 companies.
4? Okay. Are there multiple people on the same pole, multiple companies?
Yes.
Like, okay, so how cumbersome does that become? You don't have any
It can
visuals?
become pretty cumbersome at times, especially if you have to climb the pole.
Okay. All right. Is there any need to limit the numbers?
Not at this time. If a 5th entity wanted to come along or one of these needed more space on the pole, per the contract language, they are required to pay for a newer, taller pole to be installed, and that would probably solve our issue.
Okay. And the city of Geneva deems this a necessary,
Actually, the
Service?
city of Geneva is required to
okay,
allow them to use our poles.
okay, so it's just a question of
We
the
can't
amount?
refuse them, no.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Kilberg.
Hal, just out of curiosity, how many poles are impacted by this, roughly?
We have approximately 2,100 poles.
100?
AT&T's on 1,700. I think this is, it's a good question. Maybe 1,400 poles, just round numbers.
Okay, so this will generate some revenue on an
Yes.
annual basis for the city. It's pretty significant, actually. Yeah,
Helps keep our rates lower, electric rates.
unlikely.
City Administrator Dawkins whispered to me, excuse me, Comcast. City Administrator Dawkins whispered to me that this has been in negotiation for almost 6 years. Is that correct, Mr. Wright?
Off and on, yes.
Off and on, so. Isn't it though? I know, it's like, we still can't get HBO. It's like, any other questions or comments for the superintendent or for Ms. Dawkins? Roll call, please.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Kilburg, aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Mark's aye.
McGowan,
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
The motion passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Item 4J is to consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a public utility easement agreement made by James Couts, Mary A. Murray, and Susan J. Peterson for the benefit of the city of Geneva. Is there a motion? Motion by Kilberg,
Second.
seconded by Ruby. Ms. Dawkins.
So to further the development of the Southeast Master Plan, or SIMP area, staff has worked to secure a public utility easement from the owners of the Couts Peterson Farm located on the north side of Route 38, west of Couts and east of Kirk. The public utility easement agreement allows for the extension of 2 distinct circuits south from the Business Park substation to the northern area of the southeast development along Couts Road. Future work will include construction of the 2 circuits, installation of 4 conduits, and a fiber conduit and concrete encasement. 2 conduits are for future need. The public utility easement agreement provides for additional public improvements if needed. And we have Director Timoshenko here if you have any additional questions.
Questions or comments for Director Timoshenko, either remotely or here in the chamber? Seeing none? Hearing none? Roll call, please.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Mark's aye.
McGowan,
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Haven.
Aye.
Item 4J passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Item 4K is to consider draft resolution related to the commuter parking fees and permits. Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Motion by Alderman Burkhart, seconded by Alderman Swanson. Notice the passion gets a little bit less as we go on. Ms. Dawkins?
Okay, due to the COVID-19, the city has implemented various measures to assist businesses and consumers, including the expansion of outdoor dining and a suspension of fees in the commuter parking lots. It is anticipated that the temporary outdoor dining guidelines will remain in effect through October 31st, and it is also anticipated that many commuters will not resume their regular commute until the state enters the next phase of Governor Pritzker's Restore Illinois plan. With the expansion of outdoor dining and reliance on curbside pickup for both restaurants and retailers, parking in the downtown area remains at a premium. The commuter parking lots, both daily and permit parking, are currently not operating at full capacity, which provides additional parking for the restaurants and retailers in the vicinity. The City Council previously suspended the parking charge for the city's parking deck and for the parking lot line east of Illinois State Route 31 and south of Union Pacific Railroad Main Line effective March 17, 2020. In addition, the parking permit fees for the quarter ending May 31st, 2020 were applied to the quarter ending August 31st, 2020. The resolution proposed this evening would extend both of these actions through December 31st, 2020 to provide for additional parking at no fee to be utilized by anyone visiting or working in the downtown area, or also traveling to the city, While this action would result in unrealized revenue, the Commuter Parking Fund can support this proposed extension on the waiver of fees. And if you have any additional questions, I'm here.
Questions remotely or in the chamber for Administrator Dawkins regarding this considered action? Alderman Burkhart.
Ms. Dawkins, have you received any feedback from anybody grateful for this?
So from the first movements we've had, absolutely. The permit parking, when we extended theirs, actually Craig's one of those permit parkers. They were appreciative that we carried over their permits to the next quarter, and we allowed those who no longer wanted their permits to get a refund. So for now, what we're doing is we're just carrying those over if this is approved to the end of the year. Again, just trying to help everybody out. I will note, and I noted it in the staff report, there is a lease that we do pay Union Pacific. I have been trying to get in contact with them. I'm not getting much of a reply, but they really have no obligation to not relinquish our lease because it is based on revenue, but we're the ones making the motion to not take revenue. Granted, I don't think anybody would be parking there, so an argument could probably be made that we would still be lacking in revenue. The other thing I would note is you will be seeing another item coming in the future regarding our bonds on this property. We need to do something a little bit different just because even though we have the cash on hand, it doesn't satisfy the bondholders, but that's not related to tonight's action, but I just wanted to let you know that that'll also be coming forward.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think this is really smart thing to do, and I hope Geneva residents take advantage, or actually visitors too, take advantage of that parking garage. It's a great resource on evenings and weekends if you're coming to our restaurants, and obviously it's great for anybody getting in the city. So thank you very much.
Anyone else, either remotely or present? Roll call vote, please.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Marks, aye.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bruno?
Bruno, aye.
Burkhart?
Aye.
Ruby?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Hilberg?
Gilbert, aye.
Item 4K passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. Item 4L, consider draft resolution authorizing a temporary suspension of payments in lieu of parking spaces previously authorized by Resolution 2017-11, 2018-37, and 2020-41.
Bruno so moves.
Bruno so moves. Is there a second? Second by Swanson. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay. So since 2016, the city has authorized 4 businesses, Giamia, Grams 318, Preservation Bread and Wine, and Nobel House, to make payments in lieu of required parking pursuant to Section 1111A-4 of the City Code. In each instance, the city agreed to accept payments of $5,000 every 6 months until the total payment was collected. Giamia has made all of their required payments. Grams 318 has 1 installment remaining. Preservation Bread and Wine has 2 installments remaining, and Nobel House has 4 installments remaining. At the last Committee of the Whole meeting, staff received direction to draft a resolution that would authorize the temporary suspension of payments in lieu of parking spaces due to the financial stress these businesses are experiencing during the coronavirus pandemic. The resolution for your consideration would authorize the temporary suspension of payments until we have entered Phase 5 of the Governor's Restore Illinois plan. Phase 5 would allow for these businesses to fully reopen with safety precautions continuing. We have Director DeGroot with us this evening to answer any additional questions.
Questions or comments for Director DeGroot, remotely or here in the chamber? Seeing none. Oh, Alderman Burkhart.
Hey, David, thanks for being here tonight. What was the decision to push this just toward Phase 5 instead of saying like a year from now or 2 years from now?
Because, I mean, the reason they're seeking the temporary suspension is because they can't fully occupy their buildings now and generate the revenue they used to be able to do. So Phase 5 would allow them to do that, to be fully occupied with safety precautions in place. And as it's drafted in the resolution, it would actually be effective 90 days after entering Phase 5, so to give them a few months to kind of gear back up before making payments.
Okay. I would have liked to seen, say a year or 2 out, but that won't cause me to vote against it tonight. But thank you. Thanks for moving quickly on this.
Anyone else from the dais or remotely? Seeing none, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Marks?
Marks, aye.
McGowan?
McGowan, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Bruno, aye.
Burghart,
Aye.
Ruby. Aye. Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Item 4L passes with 9 affirmative votes and 0 nay votes. We're on to the last item on the, yes, sir.
Without objection, I was wondering if it might be possible to allow some of our residents that are here to offer comment. I anticipate that probably item M will take some discussion this evening. This is courtesy so that these people can go home.
Oh, sure, yeah.
If anyone from the group from Geneva East that would want to offer comment as it relates to any of the actions taken by the council tonight, this would be an opportunity, and then you won't need to stay with us through item N. That may take some time. So we'll offer, with the mayor's agreement, we'll offer you that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening.
John Sjogren, I live at 637 Westfield in Geneva.
Hey, John.
I'm one of the people that had past sewer problems along with many of us here. Just a couple questions. One is, do we know if they're going to attempt to move the lifting station that the 39 houses feed into to a different location? Because he's not here anymore, I don't think, Mr. Van.
Shucks.
And that can be answered later, but just because while we'll get ours fixed, the problem will not be fixed for all our fellow neighbors that haven't flooded yet, because it's just going to proceed to the next person, to the Hillgards. So I can name all the families that'll get hit next time because they never had water before. So that's a big concern I have, because the last thing I want is my neighbors to have the same situation I dealt with 3 times. And then the other thing is, looking at the overhead sewer application online, it has like 4 things that you had happen to you, like, or you need for evidence, like insurance claim, a service master, something or other. And but some of these basements haven't been finished, like mine. So therefore, mine was finished, but my neighbor's wasn't. But he's had water, so he, on his own, has taken his turn to clean it all up. So the fact that he hasn't have any type of documentation, I know the last option on there says is to talk to someone from the city. So, hopefully it'll be looked at that naturally, if there's 2 other neighbors have flooded and had finished basements, the guy in the middle got it too. So I just want to make sure someone's not left out,
right.
Because, it's just going to make for a tough neighborhood. So, those are my only 2 comments.
We do have an answer to your first question, John. In fact, we were both looking up the email in which Mr. Van Gescam responded. I think, Stephanie, you
So
called that
that's,
up?
looking at the lift station is part of the Duchler study. They're looking at that, so we don't have an exact answer, but they are reviewing that to
Okay.
see what that entails.
Because I know that initially was a school that they made into 40 houses roughly, so that was the plan at one time, and then they did a land swap. So, and I know that standard moves to go with the straight line for the most cost-effective way, but that went all right up by our houses, that's all. So hopefully they'll agree that it needs to get dropped in at the 12-inch, not the 8-inch spot. So.
And to your second point, and I am not speaking out of turn in any way, shape, or form, I suspect Alderman Kilberg and Alderman Ruby would echo this. Our pledge to the residents who are here tonight, and our pledge moving forward, is we will make it right.
Okay.
So irrespective of whether or not people have hard evidence per se, they can obviously reach out to any of us 3, but we will make certain that it's taken care of properly.
All right.
Except for your house.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Burns.
What's your address again? I'm just kidding. How's your daughter doing overseas, man?
She's doing good. Well, she's in COVID lockdown. She's in Panama.
Oh, good Lord.
And it's Monday, Wednesdays, women's are out for 2 hours. Tuesday, Thursdays, guys are. And otherwise, you're in your house.
Really?
That's what it is in Panama. So we're pretty.
That's like St. Charles. It's unbelievable. It's like, just teasing, St. Charles. Don't text me, for guys. Anyone else? Mr. Naylor, welcome.
Hi there, thank you. Thank you for taking swift action on this, and I think we're all grateful for the passing of the grant program and revising that. I think my question, a couple questions. The first question would be, for us that are here, I'm assuming that we're good to move forward. We're good to start repairing our homes within the guidelines of what was passed tonight, correct?
Short answer is yes, you are.
Okay.
As indicated in emails and other commentary. This will be enacted by the council next week. It will be on the consent, 17th. It'll be on the consent agenda. It is unlikely anyone's going to change their mind, hint, hint.
Yep.
But, yes, you are free to pursue.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and then going off of John's question and a couple other guys that are here and some that aren't, people that were affected from 2008 to present, it seems as though that the people that were affected most recently and then those to be affected in the future will fall into this new program. But what about the people from 2008 to current? I know one, John specifically and Andy here, they don't have the systems in place, but they were affected by this in the past, which they got makeshift things in place that push it onto us. But are they eligible for this grant program too? And if, in fact, beyond that, there's another resident that he applied for the old grant program, was denied, and put his own money, $8,000 plus, into his home to be protected from the city's wastewater. So can he now reapply and get reimbursed for something that he was put out years ago? If he provides the proof and evidence.
Talk to the city attorney for that.
Yeah, we'd have to review that from a, do you want to comment, or do you want?
Well, I don't know that we.
Turn your microphone on.
Thank you. Given the length of time, I think that would need to be looked at.
Sure.
From a case-by-case analysis. I think anyone that wants to apply should, but I don't know that we can tonight say what guidelines are
And I
hard
think
and
that's what I'm
fast.
looking for is, can they begin the discussion
I
with the
think
city or
anyone
someone
can
to try to get reimbursed for
absolutely
that? Okay.
apply
Yep.
within the guidelines.
Okay. And then, I guess just moving forward from today, as John said, I mean, this is great for us, but my neighbors and others, I mean, do they have to wait to be affected, is one, to be eligible for the grant, which it sounds like yes. And then beyond that, what are the steps that the city's taken to protect us and others from it happening again, you know? Because like mentioned last week, this is a Band-Aid to fix the city's issue. So what's moving forward, the lining of the sewers or the fixing of the infiltration?
Would you mind if we recited those items that we passed this evening with respect to the comprehensive efforts?
Sure.
Deutschler and Associates, and I believe it was WBK, and
Yeah.
I marked up my
I
copy.
mean, yeah, so we have the Deutschler study, which we've talked to you all about, that we're waiting for that final to come through. The sanitary smokes testing for that area, the leak detection program. We already have a sewer lining program that we do annually, depending upon the various areas. Obviously, we can't do the whole city in 1 year. I think we've had those discussions as well, so.
We have, but I mean, there's parts of the city that are more affected, clearly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so is there a way to get those parts?
I think they
pushed to the front of the
prioritize
line?
it every year based on that, so.
Well, maybe, but since 2008, we've had plenty of evidence that we're at a greater hit zone than the majority of the city. And
I can certainly get you some answers in writing tomorrow. I'll confer with our friend, Mr. Babica and
Okay.
Mr. Van Gescam.
Okay.
I'll send an email out and copy, obviously, Becky and Dean.
As it relates to the study that's currently being summarized, I know that there'll be an invitation, and we plan to meet with those neighbors that have been impacted sometime here in the next, I would guess, 60 days.
Oh, yeah, much,
Because the study, I think they said, was going to be completed in August.
Yeah.
And that should be informative as to what their findings are. And then I think you have a lot of legitimate questions, and I think staff will be in a better position to probably answer some of the remediation and some of the things that they might be prepared to do to address your ongoing concerns. So,
Okay.
again, thanks
Yeah.
for your participation in this process, and I think it's great when citizens get involved, and again, your presentation last week was was one of the better citizen presentations that we've had, I think, since I've been on the council. Yeah, very informative, and obviously you've done a lot of research and invested a lot of time because it is a big concern, and you're doing something for your neighbors, so you should be appreciative, and they should be appreciative, and you should take credit for your efforts and your team that's been working on this. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Steve.
Alderman Ruby.
Thank you. Yeah, echo what Dean said. Yeah, you've done a fantastic job leading this initiative, and I'm really grateful that you've put the effort into. Obviously, you have reasons to, but it still, you took a lot of initiative and really painted a great picture for everyone to understand the scope of the issue. The other thing I wanted to comment on was there is a sewer backup survey. If anyone is watching at home on Manchester or Brita, 135 surveys were mailed out. I just would like to encourage anyone who receives the survey to please go ahead and complete that survey. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, that's all I have.
Thank you. Good to see you, Tim. Anyone else? As Alderman Kilberg indicated earlier, if you need to sneak out, by all means, sneak out. Because item M stands for, my God, this has been a long agenda, so it's like it's going to be. See you guys. Say hi to everybody, John. Item M, ladies and gentlemen, 4M, is to consider approval of draft resolution adopting the 2020 Affordable Housing Plan.
It's not as presented.
It's not as presented, as soon to be described, after thoughtful invitation for commentary. Mr. DeGroot, welcome, sir.
We need a motion.
Oh, yeah, we need a motion. Jesus, the violence up here is like, by Ruby, seconded by Burghardt.
Matt.
Yes, you may.
So this item was before the Committee of the Whole last month, and based upon the direction provided by the committee, Director Groot this evening will present a more detailed overview of the map identifying areas that could be used for the development or redevelopment of affordable housing, and also just give you kind of an overview of what the plan is and why we do the plan. So, Director DeGroot.
Okay, I'm trying to remember how to do this. I think I've got it. Pete, you'll let me know if I don't? All right. Okay, it's not working. There it goes. Okay. So one of the questions that I received between our last meeting and tonight was whether or not the map is really a necessary component of the affordable housing plan that we're required to adopt. And the short answer is yes, it is. Even if we were to have a requirement that a percentage of all new housing be affordable, until we hit that 10% threshold, we're required to have the plan, and the map is a component of that plan. The map's supposed to identify lands that are most appropriate for the construction of affordable housing, appropriate for rehabilitation or conversion to affordable housing, properties that have identified by developers expressing an interest in affordable housing, and then properties that are publicly owned. The list of municipalities that do not meet that 10% threshold is updated by the Illinois Housing Development Authority every 5 years. The last time we were assessed was in December of 2018, so that we're likely to be assessed again in December of 2023. If at that time we still don't have at least 10% of our housing stock considered affordable, we'll be required to adopt another affordable housing plan, including an updated map. And the reason I wanted to mention that was because some of the comments and suggestions I had was that maybe we consider those properties that are immediately available, that aren't a big redevelopment effort or waiting for industries or existing businesses to leave and make those properties available. So if you can, we can look at it two ways, and I'll get into that in more detail in a few minutes, but we can look at this as a shorter term plan or a long term plan or a combination of the two. But I just wanted to recap before doing that, some of the interest we've received in my time here. I would say over the last 5 years, we've had serious discussions with a number of affordable housing developers. Not all of them have come through with an application. But with that experience, all of the ones that I've spoken to are seeking tax credits through the state. They're interested in Geneva because we don't meet that 10% threshold, so we're identified as an opportunity area on their application for the tax credits. And that gives them more points in that competitive application process. And then the developers we've talked to are generally looking for 2 to 5 acres and about 40 to 60 units. They're looking for proximity to amenities like grocery, park, public transportation, doctor's offices, et cetera. And they're also looking at cost containment, and that is a scoring factor on their application for the tax credits. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go into cost containment. More units usually lowers the cost per unit. A vacant site ready with utilities is lower cost than a site that requires demolition of existing structures and improvements. If it's in a TIF district, you can contain costs that way for affordable housing. Other incentives the city provides. If it's in a historic district, you can possibly have preservation tax credits and low-income housing tax credits combined to contain your costs. So that 2 to 5 acres and 40 to 60 units, obviously there's a lot of variables, but generally that's what we've been seeing. So since the last meeting, I've tried hard to try to address all the comments and questions and suggestions that I received into an updated map, but some of them contradicted others, so I thought it's best just to kind of summarize them and present them in the best way I could, and then maybe we could just try to build consensus through going through the sites. But one of the comments was that we should aim for consistency in how we identify sites. Are we looking at all industrial sites in the downtown area, or all commercial sites that potentially might be vacant? Are we only looking at vacant sites? Are we only looking at sites of a certain size? What's the methodology? One of the comments was that sites in the review process today should not be excluded because those developments may not materialize. So like Mill Race, Duke and Lee's, Citron, they weren't originally on the map. While they're in process, if those projects don't go through, we should reflect those on the map. I think one of the biggest questions was, should we focus on occupied sites at all, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial, or should we eliminate those and focus on kind of that short term, those sites that are immediately available today? And then I got a number of additional sites that were recommended for consideration, both vacant and occupied, and I'll try to identify those as well. I handed out a copy of this presentation. In the bottom right-hand corner, there should be a note if it's a new site that wasn't on the map that was included in the packet. So I tried to break it into 2 main categories. Those sites that are vacant, partially vacant, or we know are currently a development opportunity, they've been on the market, or we've had interest in them for some time. I kind of think of those as the short to mid-term, those sites that are probably be easily tackled for redevelopment. If we just look at those sites, I've identified 21 sites shown in blue here. Out of those 21 sites, 10 of them were new based on the comments and suggestions I received over the last 2 weeks, and those are shown here in orange. I will kind of ask the council if you prefer to kind of go through these sites one by one. I'm happy to do that. I've just provided a general overview on acreage, current zoning, what the land use plan says.
What's the committee's pleasure? I love how you eliminated the remote participants. That was well done.
These are all vacant.
They're either vacant, partially vacant, or have been on the market for some time.
Right. David, can you reduce the size of your presentation so we can see our
they can't see the presentation if I do that. I have to unshare the screen, I believe.
Oh, God, okay. Any comments from anyone remotely with respect to the pleasure of your direction, whether it be going through each one or simply continue the 30,000-foot tour? Alderman Bruno?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think we need to, I don't personally need to hear a description of each property. But just to refresh myself, while we put these properties on a map, the further any one of those parcels are away from those necessary amenities, grocery, public transit, they get fewer points. They don't necessarily, they might not pass state muster, will they?
Right, not necessarily. The state looks at a number of different factors, and it's your overall score that helps you in the application process. So they may not be proximate to, say, a school or a park, but they are proximate to a hospital and grocery. But other things are factored in, like cost containment, their experience, their performance in the past. All of those things are part of the state's evaluation. So it's not to say they wouldn't be considered, but they might not score as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else remotely?
And sure.
Or here in the chamber? Alderman Swanson, do you want to, or Ruby? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Alderman Bruno that at this point, I don't think we need to go through each individual additional vacant site for my purposes. Thank you.
Okay.
Alderman Ruby?
David, can you just tell us the two largest blocks on the east? What, I see Old Kirk Road. What are the other streets there? At the top and the bottom, the yellow.
Share the screen again.
This one right there.
Right.
So, yeah, those two, that one and the big one below it. Can you just tell me what the streets are?
Yeah, so those are both off of Kirk Road. This is on North Kirk Road across from Geneva Drive and Division.
Okay.
It's approximately 50 acres there.
That's just the field.
Right.
Okay.
Just south of the St. Charles Park.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
And then further south on Kirk Road, just north of Country House, and the hotel is another about 50 acres there. Those were not initially shown, but through some of the comments and suggestions, it was asked, why aren't we looking at sites in our industrial areas that may have some potential? So we took a closer look at those and identified industrial sites that are kind of on the periphery of the southeast
Right.
Industrial area and our existing industrial park. The site to the north is adjacent to a park. It's across from a residential neighborhood and proximate to shopping as well. On the south, it's a little more secluded from those amenities, but there might be some opportunity there for some mixed-use development.
Is that right on that border of Geneva, the bottom one?
Right, so yeah, the country house to the south is our
Okay.
boundary, our border. Right.
So that would still be Geneva School District? It would still be a Geneva address?
Yeah, I mean, this is within our planning jurisdiction, so it
Okay.
would be annexed to the
Okay.
city.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Present or remote? We've got three vampires remotely. We can't see them because they... Alderman Burkhart.
I guess this is more of a big picture. I mean, how important are these maps to affordable housing developers? I mean, how much do they rely on these, when they're scoping potential projects?
Yeah, I mean, those I've talked to, at least a few of them have mentioned that they've looked at the map and kind of toured the city based off of that map. I should reiterate, the map, it's not regulatory. It doesn't tie the city down to affordable housing on these sites and only these sites. It's intended kind of as that marketing tool. So say if you're interested in affordable housing in Geneva, here are some opportunities that may be available. The owner still has to agree to sell the property. You still have to go through the standard entitlement process, whether that's rezoning, a PUD, a subdivision, whatever applies in that case.
On the flip side, if a developer saw, a strip of dilapidated property that we didn't have on the map, but they thought, hey, this could be something, they could look into that as well. even if
Certain,
it's not
yeah.
on the map, yeah.
Right.
Okay, okay. All right, very good, thank you.
So David, I
I
think
should
you
say,
hit-
oh, real quick, thank you for all the work. This is a lot of work. We could tell that
You're
you came
welcome.
before us
And
thinking it was probably
I
going to be
do
a
apologize that,
housekeeping
I couldn't get it to you before this evening, but I was still receiving comments through late last week and was working hard to try to present it in a way that could be digested, so.
No, this is great, thank you very much.
You didn't go home for the weekend by chance, did you?
I did go home, but I took it with me.
David?
Absolutely.
Mayor, could we reshare that presentation remotely? We had a large screen before.
Yeah, we'll
Now
put it
it's
up there.
just one of the
I'll cruise us
thumbnails.
over to your house now, Mike. I know they did.
And for those participating remotely, I did email a copy as well to you, so if that helps you track along. But there, you see it now?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
These are,
All yours, Dean.
yeah, these are all vacant properties then that are in gold?
The blue and gold on this map are, again, either vacant, partially vacant, or have been marketed for redevelopment.
Okay. I'd submitted one or two that, they don't appear on here. I just was wondering why they were not included.
Yeah, so there's a second set that shows the occupied sites. I can go to that map quickly.
Okay,
That
thank you.
include your suggestions. I could figure out how to make this work again. So the second set of properties I identified were those that are occupied and maybe more of a long-term strategy, redevelopment opportunities. If existing industries or businesses were to make those properties available, or if we were to see more struggles on Randall Road. In this map, you'll see 15 additional sites. And Dean, I think this includes the two you suggested, one on East Side Drive and then the library next door. And again, those shown in orange on this map are new sites based on those suggestions that I received.
And what is that one?
And then following these maps is again the property by property highlight, showing an aerial view, and then just some general information on zoning, comp plan, and property size.
David, forgive me, but this site right here,
Yes, sir, that's Houghton Mifflin.
that it, okay. I can't even read this, so sorry about that.
So about where in this packet is that map? I'm so lost.
Yeah, on page 207.
If you got no page.
It's back there. Sorry, I should have numbered the pages, but
Oh, God.
should be about,
About 3/4 of the way through.
yeah.
Found it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
So again, out of the comments and suggestions I've received, I think what came through is kind of a dividing point was whether we want to look at those properties that are kind of more immediately available, or do we want to look at those properties that are like shown on this map that might require some waiting till some existing industries make those properties available, or we have sites available for them to move to our new industrial park, and then consider redevelopment of these properties, and more of a long-term strategy.
David, can the plan include all three, immediate, midterm, and long-term strategy, or should the map be, as recommended by IDA, condensed so it shows only midterm?
It can be any combination.
It can, okay. Mr. Swanson, I think.
Thank you, Mayor. The problem I have with this map here is I still don't believe we're being consistent. And I think we've identified a lot of our successful industrial businesses in the blue, and that's not new, but we've added nothing on Randall Road corridor. So when you said that we could consider the retail corridor going dark, that may be so, but we didn't reflect that on this map. So I don't think we're being consistent. We have Burgess Norton on there, we have Penrose Brewing, and we have all of the successful companies in Geneva on this map, yet we're saying to ourselves, Randall Road is going to stay Randall Road. And that's where I have a problem putting all of these items on the map. I don't think it's believable, I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think it's a true picture of what's available for affordable housing. Full disclosure, I own a business that is on this map. And I just don't think that's a good way to partner with our successful businesses to say that we think your business is a redevelopment site. So for that reason, I think we should remove these items. They're occupied, they're successful businesses, and in fact, it's not painting a good picture for what is available for affordable housing. So that's my problem with the consistency on this page. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Alderman Maladra. And anyone remotely, please chime in if you'd like to be recognized.
So there are some things that I don't get in terms of consistency. One of them is not the potential impact from something being identified as an opportunity site. When we did the downtown master plan, we had several opportunity sites identified, most of which resulted in fairly negative reaction, and in the years since, I think time has shown that that negative reaction was misplaced and misguided, because opportunity sites are just possibilities, they're not certainties. And then I question where we draw the line. Okay, so your site being identified as an opportunity affects you, but this site across the street from somebody else doesn't affect their property. It's a sort of ephemeral kind of thing, hard to put your finger on. So what I look to are what we have identified in our planning documents, and this is going to be one of them at some point. So I look at our comprehensive plan and I look at our downtown master plan, and then I start to kind of get confused. So for example, we have Gary Lane in here. And in the comprehensive plan, that's industrial, and it's not part of the downtown master plan. So if we are going to say, okay, you know what, that may not always be industrial, then I could see us saying about Randall Road, you know what, that may not always be commercial. I don't understand why we assume something might be the case in one instance, but not the other. Regarding Randall Road, I agree with Alderman Swanson that the nature of things out there is likely to change. I think that there's a lot of long discussion we need to have before we jump to any conclusions about that, because right now that's kind of an economic backbone for the city, and before we assume that that backbone is going to fail, we ought to talk about the signs indicating it and what the long-term ramifications are. So a question for you, why include Gary Lane but not Randall Road?
So, sure. So the sites on Gary Lane, the Burgess Norton South site, the Stevens Street Industrial site, these are sites that were identified in our, yes, sir.
Burgess Norton's always been a possible transition site, but not Gary Lane.
I can pull up the page from the comprehensive plan.
I have it here too.
Okay.
So, okay, maybe we're looking at different things.
The 2003 comprehensive plan did identify these sites as potential areas where we would want to relocate existing industry to our business parks.
So for me, Gary Lane is blue and gray, and Burgess Norton is black and white
Is there
hashes.
a star on that area?
No. So maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. Can I go over there?
I mean, I could try to pull it up here so we could all look at it. And I mean,
I could be looking at the wrong one. It's on the city webpage though, so that's what I was.
Let's see if I can figure this out.
comprehensive plan, but I don't know why Gary, this area is outside of the downtown master plan planning area.
Right.
So here's Burgess Norton, here's Gary Lane. Sorry.
Last time I recognized you.
Yeah, sorry.
Alderman Maladra still has the floor. And anyone remotely wishes to speak, just go ahead and say, yo, you'll be next.
And so I do, go ahead, yeah.
Yo.
Yo. No, Caven was first.
Yep, it's Maladra, Caven, then Bruno, so.
Well, I'm still just waiting to understand. So you think that the answer to my question about why Gary Lane and why not Randall is because you thought Gary Lane, or you think Gary Lane has long been identified as a possible transition sort of opportunity site?
It certainly has since we had the discussion in 2015 when we added it to the map. We looked at these sites as potentials.
Oh, so I got to look in the amendments to the map section?
Craig, I'm happy to find the page, but I also
I'll
believe it's
find
shown in our comprehensive plan. And that's why we identified these sites as potential sites for redevelopment. It wasn't based on the success of businesses
Right.
or the lack of success. It was based on our current planning documents. What we have seen with these sites until recently was that they were hard to lease spaces. They were kind of antiquated industrial properties. And the space didn't work for many of the users that were looking at them.
Okay. So that kind of gets to where I was heading. I know it's hard to tell, but it gets to where I was heading. So, like I said, for me to find a way of understanding what we're proposing, it helps to see this in context of what our planning and strategy documents have shown. And so David is saying that the changes he's proposed are consistent with that. I think Bob is saying that even within that context, there's some inconsistencies. I'm willing to accept that, but I want to avoid changing our policies on the fly. I think that we should sit down, as we do on a 5 or longer year basis, and talk through how some of those documents need to change or be amended going forward before we start just willy-nilly throwing properties on another map that's going to become another planning document that may or may not be consistent with those.
So this is the page I was referring to, the commercial and industrial areas plan. This is from the 2003 comprehensive plan.
Oh yeah, that's not at all what this is.
So you'll see the sites that are identified with stars, Gary Lane, Burgess.
That U.S. Document Center view, comprehensive land use plan.
Are you on the Geneva, New York site, by chance?
No. They have the same streets we do.
All of those sites identified with the star, Stevens Street, Burgess, Gary Lane.
Yep, thank you.
They're all relocation of existing industrial properties too. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
That's okay.
Relocation of existing industrial properties, and then there's a more detailed description. But that's why we originally identified those sites and had identified them again.
Okay, thanks. I'll send you guys the URL for this map, and you can nuke it, get rid of it.
Anything else, sir?
No, done.
Alderman Caven, then Alderman Bruno.
Thank you. I know I met with David, as I'm sure most other people did as well. Sorry, I'm having a little difficulty here. If we're not able to come to agreement with existing structures that have successful businesses in there, then I guess for me, why don't we just mark the ones that are already currently vacant and leave it at that? And I'm not trying to do this to where you're not doing it thoroughly or anything else, but to me, a lot of this seems to be, what's the right term for me to use? Anybody could purchase any building on there anywhere in the next 10 years and put whatever they want on there as long as they can get the owner to agree to sell it to them. So for all I think the way that this actually sounds is that you could put a star on anything, and we could probably sit here for 3 days making cases to or from of what we individually think we should. But if we're not able to come to agreement, I would just put the ones on the actual map that are vacant, that are actually a possibility, that don't have anything there. But maybe that's too simplified, and maybe I'm not thinking about that right. But I don't think we're ever gonna be able to all come to agreement on every specific property that should or shouldn't be on there, which would lead me to believe you should just put the vacant ones on there, but that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Before I recognize Alderman Bruno, and he may very well be saying this, but I corresponded with David as well and spoke to him, and I said, and I know Alderman Bruno did too, and it wasn't half-hearted, it was serious, almost to your point. Why wouldn't we just, and David, please respond, why wouldn't we just do a affordable housing overlay on the whole city? And send the message that, to your point, if I'm a developer and I come in, it's the entire city is available for, but it all depends on the zoning, the acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. But your response to me was, that's not what IDA wants, right?
I think the intent of the plan, again, is to kind of narrow that focus and make it easier for developers to identify those opportunities in the community.
Okay. Alderman Bruno?
Well, thank you for stealing part of my thunder, Mayor.
That's
Out
of sight, out of mind, man.
I looked at this map. I'm sorry?
Tara was making fun of you.
I'm an easy target. I was looking at this map, and we'll never have a perfect map, but I understand IDA needs something that more specific. I think we'll agree that in our experience, the idea of putting density of any affordable housing in any one place is going to be met with pushback. Other communities are simply changing zoning. I think it's Minneapolis eliminated single-family zoning. If you have a property that has capacity, parking capacity, whatever standards they need to meet, you can have affordable housing on any parcel. That probably doesn't meet IDA standards. I don't know if it's a discussion for tonight, but I don't think there is a perfect map. If we try and get granular on this map here, we'll never come to some consensus on precisely what should and shouldn't be. We're here to meet some standards. It seems to me we recognize anybody can do anything anywhere. I think this map is to meet the standard of our updating the plan. Beyond that, whether that's, it might be what Alderman Caven's saying. If we put the vacant plots on there solely, does that meet our standards, or does that meet IDA's standards? Will that satisfy them? I guess that's a question for Director DeGroot.
Yeah, I think the sites we're supposed to identify are those that are available and appropriate for affordable housing, could be rehabilitated or converted to affordable housing. It doesn't really provide parameters on time frame, existing uses, the likelihood of that happening. So I think that's within our discretion to create a map that we feel realistically portrays the opportunities in the community.
Well, based on my experience, I think we're going to run into monumental pushback on any specific concentrated affordable housing. I want affordable housing. Some of the feedback I've gotten is let's spread this out more. Let's everybody share in this. Well, if we just put an overlay map and then everyone shares it, would that make people happy? But probably a discussion for another time. Thank you.
Alderman Burkhart.
Again, thanks, David. This is so much work, and certainly all of us, this is bedtime reading for all of us. I am with Alderman Caven in that, well, can you remind me, when do we have to have this, signed, sealed, delivered this calendar year? Soon?
August 28th is when we requested the extension of the deadline till. It was June 28th.
Right, okay, and then we have to update it again by 2023, is it?
If at the next assessment we don't meet that 10% threshold, we'll have to amend and adopt the plan again.
Okay.
If we hit that 10% threshold, we're not required to.
I mean, I'm with Gabe to think that, you know, maybe we go a different route with it and say just all vacant properties, or, you know, I think if I was a developer and looking, if I'm not from this area, those are the ones that would appeal to me to think, okay, they're a quicker, you know, a quicker turnaround perhaps to look at Burgess Norton and think about, okay, this company that's been in that site for 100+ years is going to have to move to a new industrial park, and then there's environmental cleanup, and, you know, I just think, I do, though, I see, when I look at the old map, I see why those sites are on there, because when you look at the old map, you see, oh, those are close to downtown, they're close to the metro station, they're close to schools, they're closer to the city center, which meet more of the kind of ticks that, you know, the Ida wants to see, and which makes sense for affordable housing. So when we look at these, I see, oh, yeah, they're out here and here and here. But I do think we have some momentum on affordable housing with our incentives, and I don't think it would be bad to, if if a lot of us want to see a little more consistency, at least this go around, to go with just vacant sites, including ones I think that are under development, because we've seen things fall through before. And then, you know, make a commitment to talk about it before the next map update to decide if we want to go more granular, or, you know, I don't think this is the time to, I think we have to have a Randall Road discussion, but I don't think this is the time to be, you know, sending that message to slam Randall Road on this map or anything. So that's what I would aim for tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Alderman Ruby.
Thank you. I have been listening to everything. I still don't understand why occupied sites are considered potential sites, like Penrose, for example. It's not even, it's a relatively new business. It's doing well. How do we call that a potential site?
So the long-range plan for the city was to establish the Southeast Industrial Park, to build out our existing business park on the north side of 38. And when the comprehensive plan was done in 2003, we were identifying those industrial areas that were kind of antiquated in terms of their ceiling heights, their fire suppression. They weren't meeting the needs of modern day industrial users. And when those became vacant or available, or even moving existing businesses to the new industrial park, what do we want to do with these older industrial areas? And at the time was, let's consider other uses, whether it's kind of neighborhood commercial, residential uses. So that's why we reflected those on the map back in 2015 and again this evening, was because it's kind of more of a long-term strategy that if those properties become available, what do we want to see there? Do we want to continue to see industrial uses, or do we want to see something different?
But as a developer, if I'm looking at this map of potential sites, that's not actually a potential site for me right now, because it's an existing successful business. So that's where I'm getting hung up on including any occupied properties.
Okay, I mean, that's why I kind of drew the line there, is that's what I was hearing from the council. And if that's the consensus of the council, we can certainly go back to that first map and adopt those as our sites, or go through, focus on those 20 sites and make sure they all make sense before we finalize the plan.
I sense that might be the consensus of the council. Go with the 21 or 20, quote, empty sites, and by empty, we mean not even an empty building, but completely green pasture.
Well, that's not the case for all 20, so that's why I was saying.
I know, that's why we need to clarify, because.
And then just one final comment. David, you obviously put in a ton of work and time on this. We only got through, a few pages, and then we got sidetracked. Can we go back? Can you at least walk us through, even if not every single page, can you walk us through the whole presentation?
Let's go on a driving tour tonight.
If I may, Becky, so he prepared all the information in case you wanted to have that whole discussion and going through each individual site, but if the consensus tonight is to look at those 21 properties, it's kind of, that's good information for you to go through at your leisure for future updates, but maybe not necessarily this evening. Unless, of course, everybody wants to go through all of those sites, then.
No, just as long as there's nothing pertinent that hasn't been shared.
A question that might amplify Becky's curiosity. In your experience with IDA, irrespective of the community, have you ever heard of or seen a development that has taken place that included relocation of an existing business in order to achieve that affordable housing development?
Not specifically off the top of my head.
I know it's happened for, quote, market rate developments all the time, but not necessarily for affordable housing development.
Right, I mean, it really depends. I mean, if you look at the Campana project,
Right.
they were blending all kinds of different financing, from preservation tax credits
Exactly.
to low-income housing tax credits, and they had existing businesses in that building that they were trying to incorporate into the redevelopment.
Right.
So, yeah, varies.
I think Mr. or Becky, the floor is still yours.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Dean?
No, I would move that we go with the 21 site plan as our submittal.
There's a motion on the floor, folks, to advance that for final.
Yeah, can we just get a little more detail on that?
I need a second first. A second by Ruby. Detail, David, if you could provide that, then we'll vote on that. And again, this is to vote to refine the project, bring it back to us for final adoption.
Right.
Or, excuse me, the document, excuse me.
So I'll just kind of briefly go through the 21 sites.
One last point, are the majority of those over 2 acres then, David, to comply with what they're looking for? Would
The majority.
75% of them be over 2 acres?
The majority is, and I provide the property size for each property.
Okay, great, thank you.
It's my fault, 'cause I made you put them
Okay, so the first site is off of Brisher, kind of behind Walgreens. We've got about 2 3/4 acres of undeveloped property there. The existing zoning is commercial. The comp plan shows it as commercial as well, but hasn't developed for many, many years. There's limited visibility from Brisher and 38, but you do have close proximity there to the pharmacy, bank, grocery, Pace bus service. So there's a potential site there. Everybody just take them one by one and say keep it or drop it?
Sure. Well, unless there's no objection, just move forward. How's that?
Well, are these all of the vacant properties?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, well, if these are all the vacant properties and we weren't trying to keep this consistent, what's?
Because Alderman Ruby asked that we go through each one. Yeah.
Okay.
And some of them are partially vacant.
Right.
Okay, well,
So let's just cruise through these 21.
And I could be that brief, and if there's
That is the operative word, cruise through the 21.
if there's any objection to any of them.
Yeah,
just
any
let me know.
objection, just blurt it out. For those of you remotely as well, obviously.
So the next site, we look at the crossings of Geneva off of Fisher and Williamsburg. This is an existing senior living facility. There were 5 buildings that were approved to be built with up to 250 units. Only 2 of those buildings have been completed. There's obviously close proximity to Delnor next door, Geneva Commons, Pace bus service again. The existing zoning aligns well with R7 multifamily residential, and the comprehensive plan also shows it as multifamily residential. So you can see the empty building pads there. Those could be built out to mirror the existing buildings as affordable units. Okay, and then we move on to 1950 and 2000 South Batavia Avenue. This is about a 14-acre site. You can see there's a vacant 2.5 to 3 acres at the back of that property that's undeveloped. Existing zoning is I-1 light industrial. The comprehensive plan identified this as one of those industrial sites that was a potential development opportunity for mixed use. Consider research park, residential, or community facilities.
David, what is in
Yes.
the white?
Can you turn your microphone on, Becky? Sorry about that.
Sorry, what's the white building within the blue box? What is that? Is that a structure?
Yes.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
2 office-type buildings there. That's right next to Campana.
Okay, so is that currently occupied?
Yes, but the idea here is that there's 2.5 acres
Oh,
in the
okay,
back of the
gotcha.
property that's undeveloped.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
So we move on to the city's city-owned parcel, the Christie site as we refer to it. It's approximately 4 acres. Existing zoning is rural residential. The comp plan included this as part of the opportunity site for the east shoreline. That concept plan showed it as kind of a park open space with a new parking lot, trailhead to Island Park, pedestrian bridge to Island Park. We've had proposals for residential development on the site in the past. It's a complicated site to work with, but it is a potential vacant property. Okay. The next one is the southwest corner of Kirk and 38. We've got approximately 11 acres there. I don't know how many of those acres are buildable. I think it's more like 6 because of the steep slope of the property. Existing zoning there is B1 business district. Comprehensive plan shows it as commercial or light industrial. Access to the site for those uses is difficult because of its proximity to Kirk Road and Illinois 38, that intersection. And it's part of the enclaves of Geneva planned unit development. And then just across the street from that, southeast corner of Kirk and 38, kind of similar circumstances in terms of access being limited for commercial uses. We've got approximately 4 acres there that is zoned for business and is shown in the comprehensive plan as mixed-use development. Then moving east from that site across Old Kirk Road, we have the Enclaves of Geneva site. That is approximately 16 acres. It's Zone B1 Business District, but it's also within that East Gateway PUD. It was previously approved for 270 condominium units above commercial and office space on the first floor. I think there were 6 or 7 buildings to accommodate those 270 units. And comprehensive plan shows that as mixed use. When the weeds are low, you can actually see some of the infrastructure was put in for that development before everything went south in 2008. So the next site is on North Kirk Road. We touched on these briefly earlier. Approximately 50 acres. Existing zoning is unincorporated Kane County, but it's within our planning jurisdiction, so should it be developed, it would be annexed into the city and zoned. Comprehensive plan shows it as light industrial office research with commercial retail service office kind of fronting the Kirk Road frontage. But there could be some potential for mixed-use development on that property with that amount of acreage. The next site is the Couts-Peterson Farm off of 38, just south of the food bank, at the end of Dearborn Court. Got approximately 20 acres there. Existing zoning is B4 Business District. Comprehensive plan shows it as light industrial office research. Again, looking at these vacant properties as kind of being on the periphery, the outskirts of the industrial park as potential transitional sites with mixed-use development. Further south on Kirk Road, this is the site we were talking about earlier, just north of the country house. It's about 50 acres, or 55 acres, excuse me. Also currently unincorporated, but within our jurisdiction, so we would annex and zone it. Potential, again, for maybe some mixed-use development, kind of serving as a transition zone to an industrial park. I think this is one of the sites that was suggested. This is the old Coal Trap School site. This is off of Peyton Street, just south of the high school. We have about 2 acres there, currently vacant. I don't know what the school district's intentions are with the property. Existing zoning is for public school. comprehensive plan shows it as educational. But should the school district make that available, is that a site we want to consider for affordable housing? The next site is the Citron property. It's approximately 3 acres. We approved a PUD back in 2018 that allowed for 42 units. 16 of those were single family, 6 townhomes, and 20 apartments. Comprehensive plan shows it as commercial mixed use. The site is currently on the market, so we're not sure if that is the development that will be coming back to us. Or if that development doesn't materialize, then this could be a potential site.
David, just for everyone's benefit, we had a meeting not too long ago where that developer was before us, and we extended that, quote, deal for a certain period of time.
Till January
Exactly.
of 2021. So the next site is the old Duke and Lee's site. This site is currently under contract. There's currently a proposal for a 60-unit mixed-use building on the site. It's about 3/4 of an acre, so it's small, but with that kind of TOD-style development, may be able to meet those requirements of approximately 40 to 60 units. This property is the Fisher Farm off Kesslinger Road. It's approximately 6 acres. It's unincorporated Kane County. If it were to be proposed for redevelopment, it would be annexed to the city and zoned, but it is on the county's list of potential historic landmarks. So I don't know the reality of this being annexed and redeveloped if it becomes a historic landmark. Comprehensive plan shows it as single-family residential. Yes.
Microphone?
Yeah, that just raises a red flag for me. I would approve it, but this just doesn't feel like a good fit. That's fine. Yeah, just throwing it out there.
Okay.
No problem. Thanks, David.
Going south on Caneville, there's another unincorporated piece. It's approximately 5 acres. Again, not totally vacant now, but it's unincorporated Kane County, so if that 5 acres were ever to be proposed for development, it would be annexed to the city. I think in my time here, we've had one concept floated to us for multifamily development on the site. And it actually fit pretty well on the site, so I could see that as a potential. Just a little further southwest on Caneville, there's another similar property. Not entirely vacant, but should it be bought for redevelopment, it would be annexed to the city. It's a larger site.
David, is that house occupied on there?
I believe so.
But then that's not a vacant piece of property.
Right. Some of the sites are not completely vacant, but again, if kind of underdeveloped site, if it were to be annexed for development, it would come into the city likely for more than a single family home. It would be the impetus for annexation.
I think we all know who might be the owner of that property.
Okay.
Yeah, I think certainly Dean probably does. Yeah.
Next is the city's Lewis Road property, and then the unincorporated Nelson property just south of that. The two combined are about 11 acres. Currently zoned R7 multifamily. For the city's own piece, the Nelson piece is unincorporated. Part of the Sterling Manor PUD comprehensive plan has not caught up to the amendments to the PUD, which shows it as single family and open space. Obviously, we have a current proposal for affordable housing on this site. The Geneva Library next door is a site that will be available. It's about a half an acre. There's limited parking for the site, but there could be a potential reuse of that property for residential if you could kind of solve that parking issue. And we move to the east side. Again, we've got Lou's Jeep. It's about a 2-acre site. Again, not a totally vacant site, but there's a substantial portion of the site that is currently vacant. So there could be a development opportunity there while preserving the existing business, or when that business is ready to sell the property. Currently zoned business district, shown in the comp plan as neighborhood corridor commercial. We have the Millrace site at the corner of 25 and 38. This is a little more than 2 acres, currently proposed for up to 120-unit mixed-use building. Existing zoning is commercial mixed use. Comp plan shows it is general commercial and part of Opportunity Site 6, which showed a mixed-use development on that corner. We have the northwest corner of South and Burgess. 2 little office buildings there that have been available for several years, I believe. It's about 2 acres. Existing zoning is office research. Comprehensive plan shows it as commercial, retail, service, or office. So
It should be noted, David, on that last site you showed us, and for those of you who are not aware, that was the original site proposed for State Street Properties to develop I believe, a multi-family, or was it a condo development there?
The streetscape properties,
Streetscape,
yes.
excuse me.
The part of the concept for the Citron site was originally proposed here on South Street for that kind of clustered single-family home development. So those are the 21 sites that we identified as kind of immediately available.
Thank you, David. I would propose that we remove Lou's Jeep from that group because it is occupied. It is an active business. We're saying you've got more land than you need, but I don't think that's right. So I think if we're being consistent here and going with unoccupied sites, we would remove that site. That would be my suggestion.
What would that apply to sites
yeah,
just
that
north of Campana as well?
That was vacant land, was it not?
No. There's 2 buildings in use on the Route 31 side, and the empty land is behind those buildings. It's just like Lou's Jeep, lays out the same way.
And you've got that other property out of
Yeah, and
somebody's.
that's what Rich pointed out. So if we're going to start making exceptions like that, then we need to make exceptions for all.
Do they all have access to roads and could be developed if the existing property left alone?
I mean, it depends on how many units are proposed to determine if there's adequate access. I mean, we'd have to take it with a development proposal.
The ones on Route 31, there's only access to Route 31. Through the developed properties.
Bob, you still have the floor.
I guess, yes, I would remove them, just to be consistent. If the criteria is... Excuse me. If the criteria is that we're going to eliminate active businesses, then yes, I would remove those.
Can't argue with that.
That would be my suggestion, to be consistent.
You said active business, not necessarily active residential?
Well,
I
say
don't think we can draw a conclusion either way. I think an occupied property, I think, is the definition that we were putting in here, and we were going to only include vacant properties. So yes, an occupied property.
Okay, so on the occupied properties, then Alderman Ruby, the floor is yours. That eliminates probably 6 of these in the 21, at least. So that's why I asked the question originally, is it green pasture or is it partially? And then we went through the 21, which showed both. So now we're refining it more based on Alderman Swanson's suggestion, unless people think otherwise.
But I think that's fine for tonight. I think this is a plan for a few years. We obviously need to dive into this some more, and really talk about where we're gonna draw the lines on here, but I think, that seems reasonable to me, to any active home or business. I mean, I'd also be fine, well, we wanna be consistent, so, yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, again, it doesn't mean that we shut the door on that, or if somebody sees Lou's Jeep and says, oh, that looks like a great opportunity, and goes to Lou, you know, and maybe in 2023, what we do is, it's really these short-term, these are all the vacant, kind of more shovel-ready, and then looking long-term, here are sites that we think could change use eventually, or, yeah, so,
So
Thanks.
piggybacking off of that a little bit.
Well, let me recognize Becky first. Then.
Thank you. David, is there a minimum number of sites that we need to offer?
There's not, no.
Okay.
You'll recall at the beginning, I asked David if we could include both short-term, medium-term, and long-term, and the answer was yes, a blend. There is no, we create the map as we see fit.
Sure.
Craig?
So I was going to piggyback off of what Alderman Burkhart was saying about, you know, I think that there's a lot more long-term visioning that we need to do here. Becky said something about a site on Caneville that mirrored exactly what I was thinking about a few of the sites on the far east side, in terms of any of the amenities they might be near. That Jane property, which, you know, was for big multifamily, in terms of IDA credits, would probably come up pretty empty because it's near nothing. And so we need to start to recognize a few things about you know, what it might take to bring affordable housing to Geneva, and in recognizing those things, we might have to make some really difficult decisions about what we're going to do with occupied sites and things like that. But I don't know that the time is right to do that now. I think that exactly what Alderman Burkhart said, what we've discussed tonight with Alderman Swanson's modification, is sufficient for right now, and that gives us the opportunity to go back and explore a number of difficult avenues.
Does anyone object to, oh, Mr. Swanson, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out, my recollection when this map was put together before is that many of the property owners were contacted and asked if they minded having their property, the undeveloped portion, put on this map. So if we were to do that, I'm fine with that. I have a problem just saying your property we're picking to be on this map without even talking to them. So if we were to do that in the future, I'm fully on board. So I would amend and remove all occupied properties, and then
Occupied or partially occupied.
Exactly.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, David, can you speak to Mr. Swanson's comment that in the previous map drawn, all property owners were contacted saying that their properties have been identified through an item map that might have potential for an affordable housing site?
I didn't say they all were, but I was aware of some that were.
Some that were, right.
I know I certainly had conversations with several other property owners.
And some asked to be on that map, I know that.
Right. I don't think we sent out a notification to all property owners or reached out to all, but through this process, we definitely had conversations with a few of them.
Okay, we have on the amendment, is everyone comfortable with, as recommended through the amendment? I mean, do we need an actual vote on that, or do you want?
I mean, if it can be a recommendation, just.
Are you guys okay with consensus on that? Is that okay?
I'd like to comment on that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bruno?
Thank you, Mayor. So this map, you know, as good or bad as it might be, this is really, this is publicly available. This is like advertising to draw developers in. If we show, let's say, 16 properties on in city boundaries versus 21, that seems less enticing, fewer options for developers to come to us. I'm a little concerned dropping those sparsely populated parcels, as I'll describe them. I'm a little concerned with dropping those sparsely populated parcels off in terms of our visibility and attraction to draw developers for these types of things. Thanks.
Thank you. So noted. Alderman Ruby.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that point that Alderman Bruno made. And also what Bob was saying about just talking to the property owner. For example, Lou's Jeep, just if they could be notified that their site is being looked at as a potential for this, and just to have a conversation with them so that they don't panic and think the city is trying to do something that makes them nervous. I picture the people getting fearful of being on this map. I would like them to be educated about what it means. And I don't think there are really any impacts. So if I'm missing something, I would like to know what the impacts would be. But
Would you be comfortable with a note going to the property owner of record indicating that on the 17th or 24th, there will be a public meeting with respect to this map? If you have comments prior to, contact whomever.
sure.
Does that seem fair?
Sure, well, and I would reach out to anyone in my ward
Sure. Oh, yeah.
personally. Yeah, I think that would, I just think the communication at this stage would be really a great idea. And then, assuming there aren't any objections, then I think we could proceed with all 21 properties.
Well, in the interest of scaring the hell out of everybody, the property owner of record may not be someone who's currently residing on the property either. So hypothetically speaking, if Jones Incorporated has a nice building on a 4-acre piece of land, but that land's owned by Mr. Smith, who lives in Florida, he gets the letter saying, oh, yet then Jones Incorporated says, what the heck are you doing? I've got a thriving business here. We've missed each other unless we go door to door. Because we've seen that experience before with respect to zoning in downtown. We send the letters out to the property owner of record, and then the store owner comes in and says, what are you guys doing? Or the store manager.
Well, I would think we could hit both. I mean, there are only, what, six properties
yeah.
that we're talking about here?
Yeah,
I guess for,
just a heads up.
just so I have total clarification, what are we considering partially occupied? Like if we look at the Mill Ray site, I know the consignment shop is gone now, but there's still a commercial building there with a potential new tenant coming in there. Is that partially occupied, and do we want to eliminate that from the map? Maybe that's, I'm not trying to be difficult. I want to make sure that when I refine the map and bring it back for your consideration that I know.
Anything partially occupied must be removed from the final depiction, whether that be residential, industrial, commercial, or service.
Or can we have a conversation with the property owner and leave them on the map?
Well, that'd have to be done pretty quick because our deadline's the 28th.
I think that's great, and I think we do need to, have the communication, but we're up against a deadline and we're struggling to find consensus as it is. I kind of feel like we all seem to be okay with reservations maybe about the 16 or so sites that are really vacant, and we do that and then to have those conversations. But that's just because I know we have a quick turnaround on this, so thanks.
Dean?
David, how's this used? Okay, somebody comes to Geneva, they're in the business of building affordable housing. They come in and they say, what do you have available in Geneva? You pull out this map, right? These are some of the sites around town here that might be possible candidates for you. Okay, he looks at those, and then he says, do you have anything else? Well, that's when you pull out these other sites and say, maybe these are people you want to go and talk to and see if they might be interested in selling their properties. I don't think we have to nail this thing down to the minutia. I think you need a starting point, and you need the most obvious, probably. Isn't that what we're trying to hit here? I don't know. We could have like, I mean, I think that, you know, we're spending a lot of time discussing something here that, let's make it simple. Let's not offend anyone. Let's don't get ourselves in political hot water. And let's use that as a starting point. And if they're interested, they're coming to Geneva. They'll look at your first map. And then if you said, are there any other sites that could be possible candidates, you know which ones those are, right?
Indeed.
Okay, then let's have a vote. And
As long as, and I totally agree with you, Dean, as long as this council understands that David's been given the liberty of saying there are other sites. And to your point, it doesn't come back to what the hell did he do, David? Yeah. To that extent, we have consensus? Mr. Bruno?
Thank you, Mayor. To Dean's point, I would imagine in the 21st century, a lot of developers don't come to David, you know, and walk through the front door looking at a map. They'll go on a website and they'll look at it. If they don't see something of terrible interest, they can move by. And in terms of political hot water, we know that naming any site on this map, that does not impinge on their ownership. If the owner does not want to sell it, they're unimpacted by this. You know, I'm willing to answer those questions if that comes up with my constituents. But I think if we're looking to attract affordable housing, I might be a minority voice here. I see no problem keeping the sparsely occupied properties on this map.
I believe the chair, or excuse me, I believe I am the chair. The chair determines that the consensus seems to be remove those partially occupied in order to advance this to the next stage. Noted, Alderman Bruno thinks we shouldn't. Anyone disagree? David, are you clear on direction with respect to refining and bringing back so we can have a formal vote?
I believe so.
So everything in Batavia and St. Charles is identified? Okay.
So I do have.
Mayor?
Yes,
Just one
Mr.
question.
Marks.
Are we going to contact these owners or not?
We will indeed contact those owners, the best information we have with respect to the owner of record, letting them know that we will have a public meeting on this, what do you think, David, 24th probably? Well, again, 17th, you think we'll have it that early?
And I can get notices out this week.
Okay, yeah, we will. And somebody else had a question. Thank you.
Just curious, do you know, David, of these 21 properties, or 16, whatever number you're using, how many of them are currently on the market, percentage-wise? Any?
I don't know exactly. Okay. Many of them are and have been for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. The one I see, Crossings of Geneva, is that one you're wondering what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, there you have 3 vacant building pads, but you have a partially built development. So is that off because it's partially built?
Yeah, technically speaking, it would be, based on the consensus of this council.
Understood.
So if these properties aren't even for sale right now, we're just pointing developers in direction that they're going, I don't necessarily have a problem with keeping all of them. I know that goes against the consistency thing, I'm sorry, but it's weird to me that we're saying we have 21 properties, potential sites, but they may or may not be for sale. It's just a strange concept.
Well, everything's for sale for the right price.
Yeah.
All right, good point.
David, are you comfortable with getting this back to us by tomorrow?
The 17th works for me. Thank you.
Fair enough. I believe that concludes the business of this committee. Is there a motion to continue to 11? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Caven makes the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned, folks.